This video is brought to you in collaboration with WoWhead.com. Hello everyone! With the Broken Shore becoming an active questing area, a lot of you noticed and asked about Drak'thul. He's been there since Legion launched, but I figured why not talk about his story and the secrets connected to the warlock. His tale begins as a member of the Stormreaver clan, following Gul'dan during the Horde's first invasion of Azeroth. Gul'dan had searched the Guardian's Medivh's mind, still corrupted by the Dark Titan Sargeras at the time, looking for any useful information, and he had learned of the location of the tomb of Sargeras. This was the place where the Guardian Aegwynn had stored the remains of the avatar of Sargeras, a place where a lot of power could be found, power which Gul'dan desired most. At the right moment, as Doomhammer marched to Lordaeron's capital, Gul'dan gathered his allies and revealed his plan to seek out the tomb. He promised power to all who would follow him, more power than they could ever hope to gain by continuing with the Horde's pointless war. Nearly every member of the Twilight's Hammer and the Stormreaver clan, they pledged their support to the warlock. Now the Dragonmaw clan, they defied him and they moved to bar his path. In the end, neither side risked fighting. The threat of mutual annihilation was far too great. The Dragonmaw set out west to rejoin the main Horde force and warn Orgrim of what had transpired, while in the meantime, Gul'dan and his followers, they headed south. Along the way, they met occasional resistance from humans, but nothing that truly gave them pause, and in Hillsbred foothills, the renegades commandeered a portion of the Horde fleet and they sailed west. Unbeknownst to Gul'dan, the Blacktooth Grin orcs had nearly caught up to him. They boarded the rest of the orcish vessels and followed in his wake. The Blacktooth Grin were not the only threat to Gul'dan's plans, far from it. Kil'jaeden soon learned of Gul'dan's reckless betrayal, which had come as a surprise. The warlock had hidden his intentions well from the Demon Lord, and Kil'jaeden prepared to annihilate his former servant for single-handedly dooming what should have been a momentous Legion victory. It was Sargeras himself who ordered the Demon Lord to stand down. Now this was not out of mercy. Oh no, Sargeras wanted to punish the warlock in his own way. If it was power that Gul'dan wanted, then the Legion's ruler would let him find the tomb of Sargeras. He would let him come within reach of what he desired, let the foolish orc taste what could have been his. Then Sargeras would rip it all away, just as Gul'dan had done to the Horde's hopes of victory. As Gul'dan neared the tomb, he could sense the godly energies emanating from within. The promise of so much power, so close at hand, it consumed his every thought. The tomb of Sargeras still rested at the bottom of the sea at this time, and it would require the combined efforts of Gul'dan and his allies to lift it to the surface. The warlock led the ritual, weaving his followers' magic into a single immense spell. The skies turned black as pitch, and the winds lashed the sea into a frenzy. Slowly, ever slowly, the tomb rose from the depths. A rocky island breached from the churning ocean. At its center was the colossal tomb of Sargeras, an imposing tower that dominated the barnacle-covered grounds. Not long after the tomb had surfaced, the Blacktooth Grin approached the island. Now Gul'dan knew that he did not have the numbers to defeat his pursuers, but if he could harness the tomb's power, he could survive. He did not know what, if any, dangers lurked within the tomb, but he had little time to prepare for them. He ordered Cho'Gall and the Twilight's Hammer to hold off their enemies, while he took the Stormreaver's clan into the structure.
Quickly, you fools! Fan out and search for the primary passageway. We must reach the Chamber of the Eye before the tomb's guardians awaken. Spineless cowards! I said move!
As the warlock and his adherents hurried through the tomb's shadowy corridors, they eventually discovered that they were not alone. Long ago, when Aegwynn had transported Sargeras' avatar into the tomb, she had also imprisoned a number of his demon followers at the site. Most of these creatures, they were dead or barely clinging to life, and the Guardian had believed that the tomb's enchanted seals, that they would keep them contained. That much was true. The demons would never have been able to escape the structure on their own. Yet over the millennia, some of them had fed on the avatar's lingering power, regaining enough strength to prowl the tomb. At Sargeras' command, the creatures leaped from the shadows to tear Gul'dan's followers apart. Then they turned their wrath on the warlock and flayed him alive, ripping the flesh and muscle from his bones. For a brief moment, his screams of agony shook the tomb. And then there was only silence. Only a few of Gul'dan's Stormreaver adherents survived the encounter with the demons. Before fleeing from the tomb, they recovered their master's heads, believing that it held great power. Now outside the tomb, the Twilight's Hammer still fought for their own survival. Led by Dalrend and Main Blackhand, the Blacktooth Grin, they cut down the betrayers and left their bodies to rot in the tomb's shadow. Cho'Gall suffered grave wounds in the fighting. He survived only due to his Twilight's Hammer followers. A few members of the clan took the wounded ogre aboard a ship and they set sail from the tomb. The winds carried the vessel west into uncharted waters, and with vengeance served, the Blacktooth Grin orcs they boarded their own ships and sailed east. As proof of the victory, they retrieved Gul'dan's skull from one of the warlock's followers. The orc who had sold his race into demonic servitude was no more, but Drak'thul was able to escape the tomb alive, and the next time that we see him is during Warcraft 3. There we have Wardermaya's Shadowsong, who's trying to hunt down Illidan to put him back into his cage, and his trail led her to the shores of a mysterious island, where they encountered the hermit Drak'thul.
An orc? I smell the stench of demons about him.
Rest easy, stranger. This old wanderer has no quarrel with you or your kin. I am Drak'thul, once a powerful warlock of the Stormweaver clan. Now, I am the last of my kind.
What are you doing here?
Your pardon, lady, but I am hunted by restless ghosts. They've chased me day and night for nearly 20 years. Perhaps if you silence them for me, I will tell you my tale.
I'll consider it. There. Those must be the ghosts the old orc spoke of. They seem to be reliving their last battle. They're every bit as brutal and bloodthirsty as they were in life.
We see the skeletal remains of Twilight Hammer, Stormreaver and Blacktooth Grin fighting with each other, so Maiev and her troops they bring them to their final rest and return the skeletal artifact to Drak'thul.
The dead will trouble you no more, old orc.
Thank you, stranger. Now, hear my tale. Nearly 20 years ago, the great warlock Gul'dan raised these islands from the deeps. He sought to unearth an ancient vault that held the remains of the Dark Titan.
Sargeras. You speak of the Legion's creator.
The same. After Sargeras' defeat ages ago, his remains were locked away in an undersea tomb. Gul'dan believed that opening the tomb would grant him the Dark Titan's power. For his pride, he and the rest of our clan were torn to shreds by crazed demons. I have wandered these isles ever since, haunted by the ghosts of my slaughtered comrades.
Your tale is as intriguing as it is dire, Drak'thul. It's a shame your ghosts lie silent. You deserve far worse than their company for what you set loose in this place.
That's the last we would see of the orc for a very long time, while Maiev would continue her hunt. Now with Legion, the hermit returns and can still be found near the tomb of Sargeras. When you try to talk to him, he will tell you to go away. The demons are taking over this island. You may want to leave. Heh. You think me a foolish old orc, frail and ready to be put to the wolves. I was communing with demons when you were in swaddling blankets. You must know much. Will you help us defeat them? They are not your enemies, fool. Now go away. At first, I simply thought that being a warlock, Drak'thul didn't see the Legion as our enemies, but I was very much mistaken. Very similar to how the Riddler's mind worm was unlocked, the community got together to figure out what the deal was with the orc and how to interact with him. Now I have no idea how they discovered any of this. I'll link the guide in the description down below if you want to follow it step by step for yourself. And if you do, I recommend installing an add-on called TomTom, which will allow you to track down the coordinates. Our journey begins by searching the broken shore for a weathered relic found in a mound of dirt in the Fell Dust Cavern. The relic is vaguely shaped like a skull. The major features have been worn down by the years, a skull of those that once whispered to Drak'thul. With the relic in hand, we return to the orc and we ask him if he recognizes it. Where did you find it? It has been many years. Drak'thul turns the relic over in his palm and then hands it back to us. The ghosts have long since stopped their whispers. There was silence for a while, then they began again. Different, deeper, darker. Tell me of these whispers. They do not come when I beckon, fool. Drak'thul's eyes are sunken and unfocused. He has his head cocked slightly, as if listening to something that we cannot hear. Drak'thul? Atugag magnagwa kwarnasaktuikmul. Let's try that again. Atugag magnagwa kwarnasak ikvul lilkakakugak. You are yourself again. What happens? The whispers call to you. Drak'thul sighs heavily, for a moment appearing very old and frail. I have learned many things on my years on this island. I have delved into places I wish I had not, and learned things I long to forget. And now I wish to be alone, until darkness overtakes me at last. Go away. And go away we shall, on a treasure hunt across the Broken Isles to find hungering orbs. Some might say that it would be foolish to mess around with things that not even Drak'thul wants to be associated with, but that's why we're the adventurers. The first orb is found at Nordanil Wellspring in Azuna, coordinates 3837, entrance hidden underneath a tree. The orb itself can be found on the broken well inside the cave. Second orb, Kingsfall Pass in Stormheim, coordinates 3275. The entrance is behind a purple bush, and inside the cave is the spirit of Kangux. This elite hits so hard that it instantly procced my safety bubble, so make sure to avoid it, either stun it or root it, whatever you need to do to keep it busy, while you click on the orb in the back of the cave. Next orb, near Wretched Hollow in Val'sharah, coordinates 4180. You can see a tree with a tiny blue spirit floating around it. On the ground to the right of that tree is where the hidden entrance is. In the cave, you'll see a table with a bit of paper on top of it. To the left of the table is another tunnel which leads to an arcane servitor who does not want us to disturb his mistress' belongings. He hits quite hard if you let him, so interrupt his spell and pick up the hungering orb on the ground to the left. For the fourth orb, we travel back to the Broken Shore. From Deliverance Point, we're going to travel southwest to the Great Sea, coordinates 2978. A mount that increases your swimming speed or an upgraded fishing artifact that is going to be a great help since you need to dive down quite a bit until you spot a cave entrance. Inside are steam vents that will hurt you if you touch them, and in the abandoned tent we find our orb. The fifth orb takes us back to Azuna, to the ley ruins of Zarknar, coordinates 5913. Amongst the purple crystals, we find the somewhat hidden entrance to the cave where, once upon a time, we joined Voltois and Stellagosa as they did the ley line magic. Near the broken table is where we find our orb. For number 6, you'll want to fly to Shield's Rest in Stormheim and fly north to the waters of the Great Sea, coordinates 6714. In the distance, you should make out a statue with the hand and axe just above the water. To the west of that statue, beneath the waves, is a toothless great white, who did not have an easy life judging by all the things that are sticking out of him, but underneath him is the cave entrance. Again, be careful of the steam vents, as the hungering orb is in the middle of a very deadly spot. Number 7 leads us to High Mountain, fly to Skyhorn and make your way to coordinates 5638. This one is on the other side of the mountain, and don't be fooled by the obvious cave entrance, that's just there to trick you. You need to go through the smaller rock opening to the right, hidden behind a bit of fallen tree. Inside the cave you'll find a bunch of poop, some skeletal remains, and in the mouth of the skeleton we find our orb. Orb number 8 takes us once again to Azuna, coordinates 5326. Similar to the first cave, the entrance is hidden by a couple of bushes. Inside you'll see a bunch of glowing mushrooms, and in the middle of the cave is what I believe to be a rock formation, although it looks a lot like a tree to me. And at the base of that tree rock thingy, the orb is hidden beneath a bunch of green leaves. 2 more orbs to go, and number 9 takes us to a sunken ship, so fly to the Eye of Azora. Now, not the instance, you have to go to the actual islands just south of Dalaran, and once you're there, you want to head out to the waters southeast-ish, coordinates 7989. Find your way into the ship, and I'll just let the recording run for a bit, since I have no idea how to explain where to go. I think I went to the upper deck, which then led to a lower section, and I then found my way through a brown bit of seaweed, which led into a cave. Once there, you'll find a bunch of crimson rock shells just hanging out, having a good time, while in the shallow waters on the right, that's where we'll find the orb that we're looking for. The last orb takes us back where the journey began, Drak'thul on the Broken Shore, coordinates 3771. Behind him on the table is the last orb that we need to click on, and you have to do these in the same exact order as I did them, or you won't be able to interact with them. Upon clicking the final orb, Drak'thul laughs his devious orcish laugh, and he says, "I thank you for seizing the whispers. The endless hungering cries of the void are now yours to bear." Azeroth itself recoils, as we have unleashed an ancient evil. Kosumoth the Hungering walks the land once more. We've attuned ourselves to the Hungering Orbs and we open the way to the Void, allowing Kosumoth to return. That is what I believe Drak'thul meant with the demons not being our enemies, since there is something worse out there. The cries of the Voids, they have shown him this truth. Back at the Eye of Azora, a whole new world quest is opened up now, one that calls for the death of Kosumoth. This line, according to Wikipedia, it actually belongs to another Kafraxi, to Warlord Zonos, a boss found in the Dragonsoul raid, who uses this line as he kills a player. Translated, it apparently means, your deaths shall sing of N'Zoth's unending glory. Now you might wonder, why go through all of this trouble? Well, that's because the world quest, it will either reward you with a mount called the Fathom Dweller, or you can get a pet called the Hungering Claw. That's plenty of reason to get a group of friends together and bring the beastie down. Your souls shall sate N'Zoth's endless hunger. Another line used by Zonos as he kills a player. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the story of Drak'thul and Kosumoth the Hungering. The warlock who followed Gul'dan into the tomb of Sargeras, who made it out alive, only to find his days first haunted by the spirits of those not so fortunate as he was, and then filled with the delicious whispers from the void. Who knows if he will ever be given another role in the story, but I thought that this little treasure hunt was a very nice touch. Again, I have no idea how people figured out the locations of these orbs, but the hints to N'Zoth, to the void, Kosumoth spawning at the Eye of Azora, I thought it was pretty damn cool. Like I said, if you want to check out the guide on how to attune for this world quest, or the guide for the Riddler's Mind Worm if you haven't done it yet, links to that can be found in the description down below. And with that, we've reached the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!